Okay, let's do this. Hey guys, what's up? This is Brandon. Coming at you with another really quick video. It's been a while, I know. I've been too busy writing. So why don't we jump right into it? Today's video is going to be about writing things that you don't know about. I think it goes without saying, but you can write about things that you don't know about firsthand. You know, you don't need to go to war to write a war book. You don't need to be in love to write a romance. You don't need to go to Japan to write a book on Japan. This guy. It technically does help if you have experienced it firsthand, because then things are just more authentic. It's, you know, it's more real to you because if you have gone through it firsthand, it's probably a lot easier to write. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you should just cut out everything that you haven't experienced, right? You know, don't not write a war book just because you haven't been to war. Because you can make inferences from previous experiences. And you can probably get close enough to the point where you can make a realistic depiction of whatever you're trying to write. So a good example would be one of my favorite authors, Neil Gaiman. Gaiman? I think it's Gaiman, so I'm going to stick with that. He's one of my favorite authors, so I should probably know this. Anyway, he gave this example where you probably know as a person, right, how it is to walk in the rain for 15-20 minutes, right? And maybe now you're writing a character that's going through a scene where they're walking in the rain for 24 hours, right? A long time, a longer period of time. Maybe you haven't walked in the rain for that long, but you have walked in the rain for 15 minutes. So you know what it's like to be drenched, you know what it's like to want to be warm, you know what it's like to want to get out of the rain. Maybe you like rain, so maybe this is completely different. But basically whatever you're feeling and whatever you want your character to feel, you just dial it up a little bit. Just augment all the feelings that you had when you were walking through the rain for 15 minutes. Just imagine what it's like for 30 minutes, right? Then 45, then an hour, then 2 hours, then 20. You know, maybe your feet really hurt, maybe from walking so long, maybe after the 30-minute mark, the misery starts to be numb. You know, there's a lot that you can actually say about walking in the rain for 24 hours without actually having to walk in the rain for 24 hours. So being able to make inferences based on your previous experiences is pretty important, I think. And then there are experiences where you have no experiences to draw on. You know, a good, easy example would be murder. If you're reading a book and someone is murdering another person, you know, 9 out of 10 times, those authors have never murdered anyone. They're just describing what they think it would be like to take a life, right? You know, unless they were in the war or something. Hopefully not all authors that have killing in their books have experienced murder firsthand. Could you imagine? That would be insane. It would be like an author killing someone and then being like, dude, it was just for research purposes, no hard feelings, right? Anyway, in the scenario where you're writing a killing scene, right, where someone is being murdered, maybe you've had to butcher an animal before. Some people can make inferences from experiences like that, but, you know, most people haven't, so, you know, I haven't. There's a lot of killing in my books, so otherwise you just have to make pretend in your mind. But you have to think about how you would react if you had to kill someone. Maybe you can use that as a benchmark. Okay, cool, you've got that. And now imagine what it would be like for your character, who's completely different from you usually, unless you put yourself in your characters. Imagine what they would feel like when they killed someone, right? How that would impact them, or how they would do it. You know, maybe they're an assassin, so it's like nothing to them. But maybe it's their first life that they've ever taken, in which case it would probably react similarly to you. Then you can think about the details, right? The details of, like, you know, all the blood, or like what they're, you know, what it feels like. You can watch some movies, you can read some articles, and then you can write a pretty convincing murder scene without actually having to kill anyone. I mean, this all sounds very obvious, right? But a big part about being an author and a writer is that you're playing make pretend. A lot of the time. And a lot of people are very comfortable with writing stories where people die and people are killed and stuff like that. But then they are afraid to write, you know, a story about a long road trip across the United States. And they shouldn't, because they made it up what it felt like to kill someone. They can make up what it's like to be in a trailer going across the United States. We're all just making pretend, and no one should be afraid of writing about certain things just because they don't know what it's like, basically. If you have a story to tell, then you should try and tell it to the best of your ability. Don't be afraid because you don't have some kind of experience or because you're not good enough. You know, that being said, there are times where you just want to do a lot of research. An example of a guy who does research to make his scenes more realistic is David Baldecki. I think that's his name. He writes thriller novels. I don't know how to pronounce anyone's name on this video, apparently. Basically, he writes thriller novels, and you know, a big part of it is they shoot guns. And so he went out and he went to a firing range and he shot a bunch of guns so that he would know what it's like to hold a gun, to wield that power. A lot of newbie writers will, you know, write scenes where a guy picks up a gun and he just fires it and he just keeps firing and it's totally fine. But in reality, wielding a weapon like that is absolutely terrifying. You know, there are some rifles and guns that can kill dozens of people in seconds. David Baldecki shows it in his writing where, you know, there's a lot of psychological effects of firing a gun. There's a lot of thoughts that go through his mind. There's a lot of specific feelings that you can go through, and you can, you know, make all this stuff up too and probably, you know, get close enough where the reader will believe you. But David went ahead and took that next step, right, in his research to make it as believable as possible with his characters and what they were feeling when they were firing the guns. I think David took, you know, a step beyond what is actually needed to write a novel. I think he was taking that extra step, which is totally awesome. But you don't need to do that. I think that you can infer what it's like to fire a gun. You can infer what it's like to wield a sword. You know, I bet you that 99% of fantasy authors, including myself, have no idea what it's like to wield a sword. You know, all of us are just making inferences from our experiences in the kitchen holding like a butter knife, and we're just pretending, you know, that we know what it's like to actually wield a sword and to swing one, right? But we don't. Most of us have no idea. This video is turning out a lot longer than I expected. So that's not necessarily research that I think is needed, but there is times where research is super important and essential. You know, let's say you're writing a scene in the Industrial Revolution, right? Or the Warring States period of Japan, or the golden age of pirates. Do your research. You know, even if it's set in a fantasy world, but you don't want to have some weird historical contradiction or something that's completely wrong, unless that's the premise for your story, in which case, by all means, go for it. But you don't want to have like a ancient Roman warrior holding a flintlock pistol when, you know, that's not something that ever happened. You know, that doesn't make any sense. If you're trying to match history. If your story is based in another part of the world, you know, you don't even have to go there. You know, it's so easy to research things now, kind of given all the resources that we have. You know, there's so many books, there's so many articles online. The internet is a very good resource. I promise you guys, research is actually very fun to do, so don't think like it's a chore. Though I do imagine that you would want to visit the places that you're doing research, because who doesn't like a good old vacation, am I right? Anyway guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys liked it. Obviously this is all just kind of my tips and my opinions on all these things. There's no blueprint way to write, as I say in all my videos. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it anyway. Make sure to leave a like if you did, if you like the channel. Make sure to subscribe for more stuff. And, you know, I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments, and also what you guys want to see for the future of the channel. You know, I'm very open to anything, pretty much. You know, any tips you guys want to hear, any books you want me to read, or anything like that, make sure to leave them below. And yeah, cool. I will also be leaving links to my novels below as well in my social media, so if you guys want to check those out, you should. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.